Welcome to the Low Carb MD podcast. No one is beyond help. No one is beyond hope. Nothing said on the Low Carb MD podcast is medical advice. Please consult your own doctor before making any lifestyle changes.
Hello and welcome back to the Low Carb MD podcast. Tro, we have 4 crazy ketos on one podcast right now.
This may be too much. There's 2 people actually crazier than us.
Yeah, I think so for sure. We got to spend time with them on the Low Carb Cruise. They were the MCs. They're always the MCs because they're fun. If we were more fun, Tro, we could be MCs and travel the world like they do. Have you ever thought about that?
Listen, I know not only were they, first of all, it was awesome to see them this year on the cruise. And I think it's going to be awesome because we're going to be seeing them next year, I think, right? Is that a thumbs up? We're going to be seeing them next year on the Low Carb Cruise, going to Alaska. So everybody join up. We have the 2 crazy ketos here, and I'm so excited. They brought so much joy to the 350 or 400 people that were on this cruise. Laughter, tears, just sharing their own vulnerability, their own story as a couple, RVing, and just honestly connecting with people and helping people. And I learned so much about them, about their YouTube channel, which I absolutely love. My wife is like, literally, she's like, subscribe. So now I get them all. And they're also coaches. And, we did see that they were part of this documentary or this reality TV experience, just spreading the good word about how to reclaim your life and get healthy. So I am ecstatic, but I'm also a little bit upset because you guys ignore me on social media. So, well, we now know it's Rachel who ignores me. So Joe, you're on the hook, but it's Rachel who ignores me. But no, guys, I'm excited. I'm happy you guys are joining us today.
Well, thank you for inviting us.
Yes. What a wonderful opportunity it was to get to spend some time with you, Dr. Tro, and also Dr. Lenzkes. We got to spend some time in the winter time with Dr. Lenzkes. We were actually holding winter tubing going down a mountain. I have some precious memories of. So we're just so thrilled to be here. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Yeah, we were in Utah. It was a couple of years ago now.
Yes, yeah.
So we got to go inner tubing and trying to knock each other off the inner tubes and go down the mountains and freeze. And we had a lot of great discussion and stories. Just going to this, we had a blast. It was a fun time.
It's funny you mentioned the Low Carb Cruise, and we've loved the last 2 years we went, and we're really looking forward to Alaska. In fact, we actually just went on almost the same cruise. At the first week of September. It's going to be an amazing experience, but we tell people all the time, if you really want to get into community and learn from some amazing speakers like Dr. Tro, like Dr. Lenzkes, you want to get on the Low Carb Cruise. Yeah. Because what better way to really get knowledge from people like Dr. Tro and Dr. Lenzkes than be locked on a ship with them for 7 days.
They're trapped with us. It's such a thing, right?
Yeah, it was amazing. But people exercise a lot because when they saw me and Tro rocking around the track, they turned around and went the other way really quick, and they got good workouts in.
It's so funny. I want to say that you tap into your desire for exercise when you're on vacation on a ship. But honestly, it's just out of impatience, that impatience that we often have on a health journey of let's hurry up and get this thing done. You feel it when you're waiting for an elevator on a cruise ship and you're like, forget it. I'm just going to take the stairs over and over again. But on the other side of your cruise, you have this amazing victory when you look at your watch or your Fitbit and it's like, I climbed 32 flights of stairs today. It's kind of a thing.
Yeah, and just watching Tro eat, 6 or 8 steaks a night made my cruise. It was quite an experience. It was like a dinner show every night. It was amazing.
Well, you know what? You guys were so nice to say people are from us, but actually, it was the other way around. I learned from you the way you guys, shared your journey and gosh, what you guys have learned and what you've experienced. I saw it touch so many people there. And, just after the first day of seeing you guys get up and really relate with the audience and talk with people, I hadn't you know, we all have our little bubbles in this space, but when I was exposed to your bubble, immediately I was like, you guys are awesome. You know, you guys are awesome. You're so kind. You're so sweet. And you really made the cruise a blast. And I can't wait next year to meet up with you guys again. And I'm happy you guys, you know, actually responded to one of my social media messages and came on here. So I'm
It's
excited.
because that one came in via email. That's what happened.
So let me tell you about the view underneath this bus. It is like amazing under here. It's like so breezy and fantastic. But no, thank you. We absolutely love being on the Low Carb Cruise, or really being around anybody in person. You know, when you spend a lot of time, like I know you guys do, where, you know, you're looking at a screen or you're looking at a camera, you don't have the blessing, the real honor of seeing the people that you have made it your life's mission to serve. I think that you guys are really blessed in that. I'm sure that you talk to a lot of patients and you get that one-on-one interaction where you can at least see them, you know, during a video or conference call. You meet patients in person. But for us, getting to visit in live time where it's not just a chat, but it's actually like one-on-one, I think that that is so important. And I'm really thankful that our mission, our ministry that we feel like we've been called to is a community ministry. Like we really believe in coming alongside people, cheering people, talking to people daily, so that we have an opportunity to really establish relationships and help other people find their best friends, not just in the keto space, but in life. I think a lot of us, because of mobility issues, because of health issues, maybe even because the way that we see ourselves in the past, making friendships and socializing together, it was a really hard thing to do. And so it's really nice that we can come together and really have friends. And then when we get in person, it's like it's a family reunion.
It's amazing because the reach you have, you know, Tro and I have seen that if we go to a conference on the East Coast or West Coast and people come from other countries and they say, well, you know, I'm on my tractor, I listen to your podcast, go, it's so amazing that we can have that reach. And so for you two also having that reach and having so many people whose lives, like, you know, just being there on the cruise and so many people say, oh my gosh, that you saved their life, or they listened to your podcast or I was watching a YouTube video one time and it sent them down the rabbit hole of better health, you know, and so to be able to go to these things and see the impact that it's actually having on real human beings and to touch them and hug them and that they can thank you, you know, it's amazing.
That's what keeps us going. I mean, you know, when you put yourself out there on social media, it can be discouraging. Negative comments, you know, it's hard work. I mean, I say this is the hardest thing we've ever done in our lives. But when you get a message from somebody or you go to a conference and you meet someone and they tell you how, hey, I had an A1C of like 10 and now it's 5. Or, you know, for the first time in my life, I recently met a lady who said, like, I was a shut-in for 5 years. And I can now was able to not only come out of my house to come to this conference, but I went on a cruise. Like, that's why we do this. And it's like all of the negativity we get from people, it's all worth it when someone says, I was able to get down on the ground and play with my grandchild for the first time in my life.
Yeah, I think we all get to that point where we don't care what the establishment thinks. It's really about our patients getting better. Like we don't care. It doesn't matter to us. We don't need to have everyone's approval, but it's like, okay, the people who we can really impact that care and that want to change their lives, we do miracles. We do miracles together, and it's amazing. And then, you know, and the other thing is that you have recipes you're doing, you have different products like, you know, chaffles and different things that you can say, hey, this is a way to make your keto journey better and more enjoyable. You don't have to suffer and make it miserable. You're allowed to smile on this journey, believe it or not.
It has to be sustainable. If it's not sustainable, then you're not going to stick with it long term. I mean, if you would have come to me on the very first day that I started keto and said, you're never going to have anything sweet again, or you're never going to have a piece of chocolate again, or you can't ever have a piece of birthday cake again, I would have said, peace out. But when you have the ability to make a keto friendly, dessert, or, getting a little bit of dark chocolate or something, it makes it more sustainable. I kudos to people who are carnivore. For me, carnivore is not sustainable. To think that I would only ever eat that, that's not me. But for me, I want to eat a couple of vegetables, but whatever makes it sustainable for you, that's the most important thing. And so our belief is that we want to help people find what's sustainable for them, whether it's that they only ever eat beef for the rest of their life, or they incorporate vegetables, or hey, once in a while for my child's birthday, I want to make a dessert that I can consume without spiking my blood sugar and derailing me.
Well, and for us, I think it's been a real blessing because Joe's always enjoyed being a teacher and helping people be successful, whether it's showing them, a barbecue grill that would work for them, or, some sort of a small appliance that would fit into their lifestyle and on their kitchen counter, whatever is like the room that they have, he can help them make that work best for them. And I'm also really thankful that I have been a terrible cook. Like, I am not somebody that traditionally has cooked. And so we make recipes with that in mind. A lot of times we'll make recipes that we call so easy, even Rachel can make it. And that is by design because I'm not somebody who cooks a lot. So if something is easy enough that I can cook it and it's tasty and delicious, we know that we can bring it to our audience and they can be successful, making this a part of their daily lives and not just having to wait until they can have a restaurant experience for a really delicious meal.
I think one of the things, it's funny, if Rachel can make it, learning to make things convenient and easy is such a part of a good lifestyle. And I think it's a bit harder, if you were, when you're low carb. If you're low fat, I mean, gosh, you could portion control if I don't think people could, but if you wanted to stick to low carb, you could portion control some M&Ms, you could portion control some, potato chips. But for the people who are looking for proper sort of real nutrition, protein, fat, and stay low carb, sometimes it's really hard. So learning to eat conveniently, easily, making recipes, that are not hard to do, that's a big part of sustaining this lifestyle. And I think people take that for granted. Like, it's great what a doctor says. Me and Brian get on here and talk about how great low carb is and metabolic health is, but it's like, okay, well, how do you actually do that?
And that's why we focus so many different videos on different aspects. I mean, like you mentioned, like RVing, like right now, we're living in our RV, okay? Because we purchased 6 acres in Arcadia, Florida, because we want to be more self-sustainable. So our vision is we're starting a farm. So we're moving from the city to the country. We're going to raise sheep, raise chickens, be more self-sustainable. But the problem is the house that we purchased had to be gutted to the studs. And we don't have a lot of money, so we're doing all of that ourselves, just the two of us. And we wouldn't be able to do that, by the way, if it wasn't for the fact that I found keto 8 years ago, because I weighed over 300 pounds and had no energy. And here we are working 12-hour days gutting a house. But we're living in an RV. I drove from South Florida to Louisville, Kentucky for Keto Palooza and then up here. And I did it on the road, towing a 10,000-pound RV, and I stayed keto the entire time. So a lot of times we will make videos like, this is how you can stay keto on the road. This is what you can get at a truck stop gas station and still stay low carb and keto and still feel good. I mean, the fact that I was able to tow a 10,000-pound trailer for 8 to 10 hours a day and never got tired.
Yeah.
That to me is an accomplishment.
And then when you're back to your home kitchen and maybe you have all of the, the cooking devices, we're also well aware that, people a lot of times will say, hey, meat costs more than it did years ago. And so we want to make sure that we're helping them never waste a cut of meat. Never waste a cut of meat. So we want them to be successful at every meal because we do know that this is an investment of their grocery bill. And a lot of times, you're shifting a whole mindset when it comes to how you spend your money at the grocery store. So when people are seeing a higher price for a roast or for a really nice steak, we want to make sure that it's going to be a delicious experience for them.
Yeah, and making it practical. It's funny. Now, Troy, I have to give your wife a little commercial rosettes because my neighbor's like, don't even bring your fake desserts. Don't bring that fake stuff into my house type thing. Joking. We had them all over for dinner, and my wife made a beef chili, right? All different beefs and meats in there, and no beans, nothing like that. And we made rosettes. She made it into I didn't do any of this, but she made it into a cornbread. And he's like eating, like, can I have another helping? Can I have another helping? That's the best cornbread I ever had. And we're like, full disclosure,
Those
that's
rosettes
keto.
are great. In
That's
fact, we
keto.
made them in our RV.
Yes.
Yeah, so stuff like that makes it convenient because who wants to have all the flour and all the stuff you got to do? Sorry, Troy, I'm just doing a quick commercial for your wife if that's okay. But
Yeah,
it does
just
make it
whatever they
convenient
want.
because no one wants to hassle with it. And if you're going to a Super Bowl party, you can just bring your own stuff and you don't have to eat all the other garbage that's horrific for you.
And it's a very small footprint. I mean, we lovingly refer to our RV oven as an easy bake oven. It's literally that tiny.
You can only put a casserole dish in it.
I've checked it. It is more than a light bulb that's cooking it, like an easy bake oven. However, not much more. And that's how we have cooked our rosettes. In fact, we have another packet in the RV for the trip home. So yeah, we love it.
My gosh, you guys are so kind. Rosette would be so happy to hear you guys say that. And just a full disclosure, Rosette doesn't pay any of you guys anything, as far as I know. I don't know. So.
But that's what
She
it
may or
is.
may not
It's
have sent
about
my wife a
convenience.
couple things, but that full disclosure, but they're friends. So that's a
Yeah,
little awesome.
But that's what it is.
But my
It's
wife spends
about
half my
convenience.
paycheck on Rosette stuff, so I don't feel too bad every once in a while.
You guys are too much. Rosette's gonna be happy when she hears this, at least.
Yeah,
she's-
but just to know that she's reaching other people out there that go, I'm not eating low carb, and then they try and they go, those are good. Can I have another one? That's always the compliment, right? And when all the really bad desserts are sitting there and no one's eating them, right? It's cool to see that.
she's
Like
also
Maria Emmerich stuff and different recipes we can make. And then you two making it so you say, I don't know how to make it. Can I just watch you guys do it? It's so much better than reading out of a cookbook. It's so like to see you doing, okay, hold on, stop. What do you say? How many eggs are in there? Okay, crack the eggs, honey. And you can make these things. It's pretty cool.
Now, I will say for anybody listening, I mean, you're talking about like your friends saying, don't give me any of that stuff. My advice is if you're keto, you're having a party, the holidays are coming, don't advertise it. Rachel calls it Lion King. Don't Lion King and go, this is keto.
This is
Just put it out
keto.
there, and I've had people say, well, you need to tell them. There is nothing in keto that would be allergic, unless maybe almond flour. And then you put like, hey, this has got nuts in it, but you would do that with any diet, right? But if somebody's looking at a cheesecake, nobody's looking at the cheesecake going, do you think that has fat in it? So if you make a cheesecake dessert, which is super easy to make keto, you literally only have to swap out the sweetener. And now we have products like allulose and stuff, which can even help to reduce blood sugar for some people. I mean, you don't need to Lion King it. Most casseroles are keto friendly. Just put it out there and you'll be shocked that a lot of times they want that over other stuff. For our church, 2 years in a row, I made chili, a keto chili. Both years it won. Like you have 40 somewhat entries and both years our chili won. We didn't advertise it was keto. We just said it's a meat chili. There's no beans in it. There's no tomatoes in it.
Yeah,
but
you don't have to advertise it, right? Just do your thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny.
And now that we're going into the holiday season, it's such a blessing to know that we don't have to be afraid of the holidays. That's something that we really want people to not think that it's going to be a hard time for them. If this is your first holiday season where you are having a low carb approach, you've kicked the sugar to the curb and you're thinking, how am I going to get through this? Number one, you need to get into community. No matter what, that's going to be very, very important. That's going to help you. And also be able to answer that voice in your head that like, I'm not going to be able to get through this. You need somebody else in your life to encourage you during those hard days. But it's also nice to know that there are so many beautiful keto recipes that are so decadent. I mean, fat is flavor, let's be honest. So when you come to bringing all of the potluck dinners to, your church or to your family gatherings. Trust me, you are going to love making keto recipes. It's the most delicious food ever. So there'll be no coming back. So don't worry about your kids, your grandkids feeling like they're having a less than, Christmas or Thanksgiving because you're going to be serving up some keto options. It's going to be just the opposite. You are about to find some new family favorites that are going to be things that the family can enjoy, and then you won't regret later on.
Yeah, I think the one of the things that you guys brought up, which is this feeling of deprivation, and it's a killer of diets, really a lifestyle. If you feel deprived, you can't. So having access to information and ways of not feeling deprived is absolutely critical. And then having people to sort of uplift you, and a community to support you is probably, there's such strong data showing it is the most likely predictor of weight loss. The single most likely predictor of weight loss is having a community. So when you guys came on here and said our ministry is to basically create a community and spread this knowledge, I was like, you guys don't know, scientifically speaking, maybe because you see it in your lives, how many people you affect. But statistically speaking, and the medical literature supports your mission. Let's put it that way. The biggest data set from Optum looking at weight loss has proven that actually somebody in the house who supports you is the single most predictive factor for maintained weight loss. So you guys are doing a great service. What I'd like to go to, if you don't mind, and sorry to shift hard here, where did this all start? Because there's people here, I know you guys have a huge YouTube following, and probably a lot of the listeners, where you guys started, but can you walk us where you were 10 years ago and what changed? And sort of, they look at you now, they're going to see you on our YouTube channel or listen to the podcast, they're going to see the bright smiles and how much energy you guys have, but how did you get here and where did you come from?
So I have been obese most of my life. Probably since when I was about 10, I started gaining weight. My mother was a medical oncologist. My father was a PhD clinical chemist. We grew up in the time, I'll be 54 years old in December. We grew up as things were coming around where everything needs to be low fat. We grew up drinking powdered skim milk, and we never ate beef. It was only ever chicken, like turkey burgers. That was what we ate. And I remember growing up as a kid, as I started to gain weight, my mom being like, you don't want to get diabetes. You don't want to get diabetes. It means giving yourself shots, and it means you're never ever having sugar ever again in your life, because this is before, of course, they have medications where you can consume sugar and then pop a pill. And so I still got heavier and heavier, and I went off to college, and all the things that I wasn't allowed to have as a kid, I began to consume. All the fast food, the sugared cereals, all of that stuff. And I got very large. But in 1990, I had a severe car accident where I shattered my ankle. I spent 2 years on crutches. I lost all the blood supply to the bone. I was told I will never, ever walk again. After 2 years, I was able to start walking. But from 1990 up until 2017, I was consuming, started with Oxycontin, but then switched to Vicodin when you couldn't get Oxycontin anymore, and an arthritis medication called Arthritech every day for more than 25 years. I had to live on it because of the excruciating pain I was in with the arthritis. In 2017, I was well over 300 pounds. I don't know my exact weight because when I saw like 295, I decided I was never getting on a scale again because I didn't want to see the 300. But I went up 4 sizes from the time I was 295 to when I started keto. And I entered into a weight loss bet with a bunch of people in church. But the weight loss bet was about you had to lose fat. We had to go get measured, and it was about losing fat. And I began going to a CrossFit, working with the trainer because I have a lot of different physical injuries like my ankle. And then the CrossFit closed. And I was like, now what do I do? This was my only chance. And I felt like maybe I'm going to finally get my health back. And what ended up happening was I found out about keto. Danny Vega had been attending our church and he had just left, but he had left rumblings of keto and paleo in the church. And I'm like, hey, I want to try this. And I remember I went home to Rachel and I said, hey, I want to try this keto thing. And she's like, only if it's not going to cost our family any money. Because we had no money. We had learned how to feed a family of 5 on $3 a day. It wasn't healthy. I mean, we were eating yakisoba noodles 3 times a day. But that's where we were. And I began to lose weight. At the same time, I'm also a high school football and lacrosse official. I was getting harder and harder to officiate because of my ankle and the pain. And I had gone to the doctor and I just could barely walk anymore. And I remember coming home from a lacrosse game in February and I said to Rachel, I think this is it. I think I'm done. I don't think I can do this anymore. I'm going to try to get through this season, but I can't, it hurts too much. And I had gone to a doctor and the doctor said, you need an ankle replacement surgery at this point. That's the only thing that's going to help. The problem is it doesn't last a long time and you're looking at a 1 to 2 year recovery. Well, when you are, in your mid 40s and your job is to be a landscaper and a school official, what am I going to do? I didn't know what I was going to do. So I said, well, we'll figure it out. And I continued on my keto journey. And about 6 months into it, I came home from a football game and Rachel went to hand me a pill. And because I only ever took medication when I needed it because I don't like the feeling of being on narcotics. And I came home from there and she's like, let me give you a pill. And I was like, huh. And she's like, what? And I'm like, I haven't taken a pill in 6 months. And that's what changed everything for me. And so that was 2017. And here I am now. We actually went on our honeymoon. She had to push me in a wheelchair through Disney. That's how immobile I was. And here we are now in 2024, almost 8 years since I started keto. I haven't taken any more narcotics for my ankle. I don't take arthritis medication. I never got the surgery and I don't have pain in my ankle anymore. So when people say, why do you keep doing this? Because pain is a powerful motivator. And by the way, I didn't even know about all these health benefits when I started keto.
I also did not know about the health benefits. I have been a dieter my entire life. I'm the daughter of a lifetime dieter. My mother had yo-yo dieted for more than 50 years. When in the late 60s, early 70s, she had been prescribed speed, among other things, from her doctor because she, didn't have the proper weight, for her height and age and stuff like that. And that's where it kind of began for me. It was like, this is what we're supposed to do. At the same time, I was raised in a Southern household with everything was battered. We were very poor, from generationally poor. I'm a 7th generation Floridian. And so it was all about food that would stretch the little bit of meat or fish that you would hunt or fish for. So it was a lot of grits and potatoes and rice and that sort of thing. So that's what I grew up on. And it was kind of like a joke around family reunions and dinners, like who's the most hurt? Who's got the worst health among all of the uncles and extended family? Because we just planned as a family that we were just, sickness ran in our family. And that was kind of just what we embraced. And so we really put a lot of stock in the whole thing when, you're filling out, what is your heredity and what does your family history say about us? We never thought that if you could change your lifestyle, you could alter that in any way. Everybody had kind of received that in my family as the inevitable, like this is what we die of. And so I yo-yo dieted my entire life. I have also struggled with mental illness my entire life. I know now, looking back, that I did have a period of time where I was in ketosis. I was a classically trained journalist, a true investigative journalist. I want to say that. If you know, before this era now, where I feel like there is not the pursuit of journalism that I studied for and participated in, but I was a journalist. I worked for the Sun Sentinel in Fort Lauderdale. I worked for the Washington Post in DC. And during that time of just a really, really busy schedule, you barely could eat. I didn't even realize that I was like putting myself in ketosis. I didn't know what that was about. I knew growing up, there were many things I couldn't do. I had social anxiety. I had a hard time standing up in front of anybody, talking to anybody one-on-one. I had a great desire to be a journalist. I wanted to educate people. I wanted to be a teacher, but there were so many limitations when it came to mental illness. And so I had about 10 years of just amazing clarity, great health. I didn't realize that I was in ketosis, but when I got married, because we're a second marriage, my first marriage, I thought this is not a good lifestyle for having a family. And so I quit being a journalist, moved into an office space, did not know how to cook. And so I started leveraging grab and go options like Stouffer's lasagna, pizzas, things that you could warm up in the oven that were very, very carb heavy. And when that began, I started to lose ability. I liken it to, if you've ever seen that movie with Robert De Niro and like Robin Williams, it's called like Awakenings.
Awakenings,
where they, for a period of time, they're just locked and trapped inside of themselves. And then they have this spring of ability. Suddenly they can do things that they couldn't do before. They were unfrozen. That was my life as a journalist. I was unfrozen. And then when I started reintroducing carbohydrates into my life, the wall started closing in. I had a complete nervous breakdown. I got all the labels you can imagine, bipolar 2. It was major depression, just so many medications that I began being put on. And it's never a matter of deprescription. It's this isn't working enough or this is wearing off, and it's just an escalation of medications. So this is my life. And with it, some of the side effects were tremendous weight gain. Certainly, it changed my birth plan as a woman. I was not able to have the birth plan that I wanted because there was always this danger that I was going to hurt myself or hurt my child. I did thankfully survive 2 suicide attempts, and the medicine just kept on coming. So I can't really explain how hard it is to live under that label when your soul is crying out that you can do more. But I had gotten to the point where I can remember there was one day I needed to, for my boss at that time, make a deposit into the bank. And I'm sitting in the parking lot and I cannot will myself to get out of the car and go into the bank. Literally, the social anxiety got so bad. It might as well have been a guillotine inside of that bank. So once I just continued, this is the way I lived. I was always underemployed because of my personal limitations. And so Joe is starting this keto diet. He's part of this weight loss bet at church. I try it, but at this moment, I am so afraid of food that I had worked myself into a 500 calorie a day, only oatmeal diet for 2 solid years. For 2 years, that's all I ate, 500 calories a day of just oatmeal, a little dollop of some Greek yogurt, because I was completely afraid of food interaction. And I managed to gain 70 pounds doing that. So if calories in, calories out is the only method of measurement and success, then clearly I disproved that. When he went keto and realized that he had newfound mobility that he had never had before, I didn't want him to stop that. I at least wanted him to be able to maintain mobility. That's when I jumped onto keto myself. And then I started to see myself thaw out again. And now I'm 7 years almost on keto as well. Never experienced any problems that you would say is mental illness again. Every single bit of medicine I've been deep prescribed from, and we're living our best life, really.
Now, I want to give a disclaimer. When I started keto, Rachel did try keto for a month because like she's eating oatmeal and yogurt and I'm eating burgers and stuff. And for the sake of our marriage, she did try it for a month. And at the end of the month, I lost close to 20 pounds and she lost nothing. And so she looked at me and said, this doesn't work. I'm going back to the oatmeal. But now looking back, what we didn't think at the time, but she didn't gain anything.
Right.
She went from eating 500 calories a day of nothing but oatmeal and a quarter of a cup of Greek yogurt for 2 years and spent a month eating burgers and eggs and bacon and steak and gained 0 weight. And so that I wish we would have noticed it then because it would have not had a delay of 6 months.
Yeah.
And then even when she did finally jump on with me in that following January, after about a month, I will never forget, we went to the store. And when we went to the store, she wanted buying clothes and she was like, I need this size. I feel like it was a size. She wanted a size 4 or 6. And I'm like, no, that's too big for you. And when I gave her a smaller size, she's like, I can't believe this fits me. She's like, I've only lost 2 pounds. She dropped 3 sizes, but it only lost 2 pounds over a course of a month.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we see that very frequently, and that's an amazing thing. I just had a lady, she's lost 2 or 3 pounds and she lost 4 inches off her waist. And you go, oh my gosh, she's redistributing what she's doing. And if we could follow those metabolic markers like insulin, A1C, triglycerides, you see these improvements. So when you see those, you say, okay, I'm going to keep going. But when the weight doesn't change, you say, forget it, I'm out. Even though my anxiety got better, my sleep's better, and all these other joint pains got away, everything, it's like, it's all about the weight. And if we get that out of our focus, we do better.
Yeah.
You know, I took some notes here from what you guys are saying, and I've been writing them down here. But Joe, in your story, you know, here you are. Like, I just want to show you how you interacted with your medical community. You know, you were being handed narcotic after narcotic. Eventually, told you need surgery, and you know, Rachel, coming into this world where you're watching your mom struggle with weight, really not getting any help, but in fact being prescribed an addiction, being prescribed amphetamines to lose weight. And then your own interaction with the community, which is just getting a label after label after label, medication after medication. And it sounds like, honestly, nobody actually cared. Nobody actually cared. And what a sad world we live in when some of our most prized institutions don't care.
Let me piggyback on that, Tro, too. You just posted something a couple of days ago, and it was showing that they did this poll of doctors, and 32% of the doctors in this group said, yeah, if you have intractable depression or anxiety, lethal injection is probably the way to go. And you go, holy cow, have we given up totally on mental health? And so back then, when you're suicidal, no one's really helping you to get out of it. And they don't even discuss diet at all or lifestyle.
Well, it was interesting to me that even during, pregnancy, that it was just fear. That was all. And I had reached out to like the best birthing center that I could afford, took lots of recommendations because I'm already thinking I need help. I'm going to need help with this, more help than what I would think is like a normie, a normal person, because of course I classify myself as a broken, damaged bit of goods. And it was just all of the talk with my doctor and was about making sure that we were strategically using different classes of drugs at different points in my pregnancy and immediately, getting me on antipsychotics as soon as the baby is born. Of course, you can't breastfeed. Of course, like you're going to have somebody come and have care because, you're going to be a threat to your child. And I think about how that really forever, worried me, concerned me, when we would have our children collectively. We have 3 boys, and there would be play dates, or there would be opportunities for, us to, interact with other families. Like, I was always so concerned for myself, but there's nobody to talk to you. There was just prescription of medication, but no discussion about, like, hey, what's going on in the home? What's going on in your life? There was just always this fear, really, that things are just going to get worse. And I can remember, our doctors talking to Joe about, when I go through the change of life, and, like, of course I'm going to have to go on antipsychotics. You're really going to have to watch, Rachel, and see how it changes. And it was interesting. So I went to Dr. Jamie Seaman. I actually, like,
Last year.
when you have like a gynecological appointment, but you're like, you fly to Nebraska because you want to make sure, that you're seeing a doctor that understands, what you're eating. And she's like, gosh, you already went through menopause. Did you not know that? Did you not realize it? No, I felt great. I wasn't a threat to myself or my family. I powered through menopause, and
You never went through any hot flashes or any of that stuff.
it was amazing.
Yeah, one of the things I think, first of all, Jamie Seaman, big shout out to her. She invited me to talk last year, but I had COVID and I couldn't make it, but we've connected a lot. And she's just an amazing doc, and her approach to hormones, I think, is second to none. I think, another thing that I keep hearing is, and we've talked about this, and Brian sort of led with that statistic, where our medical profession is a disaster, and there's these shining, there's some glimmers of hope. You mentioned Jamie Seaman. We have Ken Berry. We have the Society of Metabolic Health Practitioners, Brian, myself, Phil Ovadia, and a lot of others. The amount is growing, but we're fighting against, and I'd love to hear, what you think about this, but we're fighting against a convention, a medical convention that's so pervasive, and a nutritional convention really that's so pervasive. And which comes back to the original place where we started this conversation, which is that need for community. I don't think there's any other way to fight this, right? Like, when every single doc is saying, here, take another medication, you need antipsychotics, you should be eating low fat, diet can't affect mental health, you might as well kill yourself, which is really what Brian was talking about, what the UK consultant psychiatrist voted. 32% of them said, if somebody wants to kill themselves because they have severe depression or bipolar,
with no other underlying medical problems,
right, with no one, we should allow them to. This is the place that we're heading, and this is what most people have to fight against. And I view your guys' story, and you may not view this, but you had to fight through a lot of sort of medical coercion, and the fact that you guys were able to come out of it, I guess, together, really. And I'm wondering, how much did faith and how much did community and support play in your ability to say, fight this? I think it's an abstract concept to think of the medical nutritional convention, but I think your story makes it clear, and Brian's statistic, makes it clear that this exists. But how much did your relationship with each other and your community and your faith play? I mean, it sounded like Danny Vega sparked this whole thing, which kudos to him. He's inspired a lot of people. But can you walk me through what things you think protected you from honestly what maybe you were born into, watching mom take speed? I mean, that's a medical matrix from my perspective.
So, first of all, what you're talking about with the doctors, being the son of a physician and watching my mom, who was an oncologist, and when I was a kid and growing up, and all of her patients were elderly. They were all on Medicare. You didn't have 30-year-olds getting breast cancer when I was growing up. And my mom lined her entire office with Humpty Dumptys. And she would actually have her patients come in, and it was a conversation starter. And it was, people would, of course, walk in and see like 50, 60 Humpty Dumptys, different ones she found in antique shops lining the walls. What's with Humpty Dumpty? And so she would tell people, like, listen, I want you to tell me the story of Humpty Dumpty. And they would repeat it, and how does it end? And all the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty Dumpty back together again. And she would say, but there's one person who can, and that's God. Can we talk about it? And she would spend 2 hours with patients on a consultation. And then I was going to medical school, and she begged me, do not go to medical school. Do not become a doctor. That it's not what it was, that you're controlled by the insurance companies. And this is when HIPAA is coming into play. And so she was like, it's very different. You know, the insurance companies are giving me $60 for a chemotherapy drug that's costing me $100. And they're telling me how long I'm allowed to spend with a patient when I'm telling them they're dying. And so some of it's not even the doctor's fault. You know, I truly believe that until the doctor is educated about the different, what they've been taught and brainwashed with their whole life, it's not their fault. But it is our job to politely educate them and say, like, hey, doc, what about this? You know, and, you know, I've been saying it a lot lately on our live streams that, like, why are we constantly politically talking about, hey, we need to lower the price of insulin and other drugs? How about we find a way to have people not be on insulin? You know, but again, I grew up at a time where if you got diabetes, it meant you were never having sugar. But now we have drug companies going, no, it's okay. You can still have sugar as a diabetic. Just pop this pill after you eat the sugar. That's what infuriates me. So for us, though, it was only faith, because we had no friends. We literally had no friends coming into this eating lifestyle. Having been divorced, we had each other. I didn't know how to make friends. I was embarrassed about the way I ate. We had our friends and our children. We had our family, we had each other and our children, and that was it. And I did it alone for about 6 months because, again, I started for weight loss, but then as I began to notice the health benefits, that was what kept me going. And then I will never forget, at Christmas time, I said, I'm going to go off just a little bit. I had like 1/8 of a slice of pie and just a little bit of macaroni and cheese, and I felt like garbage for 2 weeks. And I said, never again. And then when Rachel joined me, it was about the two of us together. But I quickly realized that you can't do this alone. And the way we started our YouTube channel was, we literally had come home. We were children's pastors at our church. And we'd come home and we realized one day that our kids were getting older. I think at the time our youngest was like 17. And we're like, you know, we have never experienced marriage to each other without children. Because when we got married, our youngest were 6 and 7, and then we had a 10-year-old together. And so we never have been married to each other without children. And we're like, we better learn how to like each other without kids. And so she's like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, well, let's start a YouTube channel, because people were asking us all about, like, how are we losing this weight? The problem was Rachel didn't know that she could do it. Right. And because, again, she's never been able to be in front of a camera or talk to people or anything like that. And when we went to KetoCon, in 2019, we saw people walking around with their heads down, looking depressed. And I realized, and Rachel realized, that we need to fix that, because I always did that. You walk around looking down on the ground. Why? Because you're embarrassed about yourself. You're embarrassed about the way you look. You're afraid to make eye contact. So we wanted to have a place where if you look up, you're going to see somebody who supports you.
We're crazy indeed, but you will see a smiling face, and that is what we are determined to connect people with. And yeah, I think it is really important for the opportunity to share, in Christ alone, I place my trust. Like, I'm so thankful that although, you know, sickness and, you know, really clearly poor nutrition was snuffing out my life, I'm so thankful that God had a plan for me still, and that I can not just be sympathetic to other people who may have had this similar experience, but empathetic. I've been there. I know how lonely it is, how hard it is to continue putting one foot in front of another. And I'm really thankful that we have the opportunity to share this lifestyle and to continue letting people know that, man, there can be a lot of contributing factors, but nutrition really is 80% of the problem. And for my mother, I'm happy to report she was a type 2 diabetic for more than 20 years, now no longer a type 2 diabetic. She had been scheduled to have stents put in her heart when she began keto. By the time we got into the hospital for her to have surgery, they rolled her into the operating room, rolled her right back. I thought we hadn't signed a paper or something. And the doctor said, no, all of the blockages are gone. She had only been keto for 2 months. We don't need to do surgery. So I want other people to be able to experience this in their family, like we've been blessed to experience it. And this is a David and Goliath battle. Don't kid yourself. We put a lot of things on hold in our lives in order to pay for medicine, like mental illness medicine. It's like you don't even argue with it. You just sell what you need to sell, and because you're afraid not to have those things. So this isn't going to be something that the pharmaceutical companies are like, yeah, if meat can heal it, we'll go ahead and give up all of those funds. Absolutely not. But I think it's going to be really important for us as a community to stick together. And I think that the one obstacle that we truly have within the keto space is the perceived hierarchy that people who are low carb or people who are keto or people who are carnivore or lion diet are somehow not on the same team. We have a one enemy, and that is the sugar, that is the nutrition. So I think it's really going to be important. If we want to change policy, if we want to change things in America, we're going to have to get together, whether or not you eat broccoli or whether or not someone's lion diet or whatever.
Yeah,
Or vegetarian, if you're doing it. Like I just interviewed Hannah Warren, and she overcame her bipolar, depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation on a vegetarian diet, adding in more
I
eggs.
think Dr. Berry, I wish I would have thought of it first, right? To coin the term the proper human diet.
It's going to be different.
Like it encompasses so many different things. And what is the arch enemy? Overly processed food, big pharma, big food, eat whole foods. Just eat whole foods. Get rid of the overly processed garbage. I don't like to say processed because even meat is processed, unless you're going out and slaying an animal with your teeth and running through the but overly processed food and all of the sugars. I mean, again, when you look at what is allowed here in the United States compared to allowed in other countries, that in itself is sickening. And as you said earlier, Dr. Tro, when you look at it's hard enough to lose weight without community. Well, this is even harder because here, not only are you trying to lose weight, but you're also fighting against friends and family members and coworkers and doctors and politicians who are all saying what you're doing is wrong. Here, have some more canola oil. It's healthy. It's heart healthy.
Yeah, it's such a hard thing. And then whenever you get a community, just like anything, you start having divisiveness, right? Like, oh, you're adding honey to your carnivore diet. You're not a true carnivore. And you get into this thing. Is it working for you? Is it working? Okay, cool. If it's not working, let's adjust, right? And so we get into so many of these things. And the other thing I just wanted to throw out there, because we didn't get to it, Joe, but when you were telling me, I remember we were driving to the ski slope together, and you were telling me about your mom and medicine, and you were asking about my practice and all that, and you were saying that your mom would have one IV pull for all these people getting chemotherapy, right? And that would make a sense of community, and people would do better because you're seeing someone who's just starting, someone who's done it for a year, and there's hope, or there's human connection. And that's the community we're talking about. People who, you can't just do this in isolation. You got to be part of Tro's community, my community. We get together for Zoom meetings and everyone helps each other, and it's always encouraging. No one's ever ragging on someone because they're having a hard time, because we all have been there.
Yeah. And you have to share your story. I say that all the time. You need to share your story for two reasons. Number one, it helps you remember where you came from. It helps when you hit a stall or you're just feeling a little depressed and you can look back, but I'm not there. I'm not where I was. But your story inspires people. I tell people, everybody who's doing this thinks that they're alone and nobody else gets it. And when you go out and you share your story in a community group like our Mighty Networks group, or on a Facebook group, or in your groups, and you say like, hey, you know what? For the first time in my life, I cannot believe it. I went 7 days without sugar. There's somebody else going, me too. There is a reason that years ago when it first started, groups like Weight Watchers actually worked before it became a money-making scheme. When people used to sit around in a room and talk about their struggles. And unfortunately, they've gotten away from that, but that's what we need here. Yes, it's about eating the right food, but we need to support each other as well.
Well, I think it's important for us to get that only word out of our mind. A lot of times people lead, they come to me and they've got this huge suitcase of wins, this beautiful things that are happening in their life now in regards to their mobility, or their health. Their skin has cleared up, their hair has grown back, like they're able to sleep through the night without leg pain. I mean, just amazing things happening, but they always lead with, I've only lost blank amount of pounds. And I think it's so important that we take time to celebrate. That's why Joe and I, it's kind of funny, we're sometimes inconsistent, with other aspects of our life. But the one thing we've been thankfully consistent in is now I think we're up to 294 straight weeks in a row of a live stream that we do every Monday morning at 10 a.m. It's called Keto Beyond the Couch. And that's where we just celebrate subscriber wins of the week. Somebody got a new job, somebody lost some weight, somebody was able to deprescribe some medication or change their medical distinction in their folder from, a type 2 diabetic to no longer, being that underneath that banner. And I think it's just so important for us to share it, so much so that I can remember one time we were so dead dog sick, but it's like the one thing we don't miss is that time of celebration. So I hope that whoever's listening, if you've pushed the snooze button on celebrating where you are right now, I hope that you won't do that anymore. I hope that, when you begin your day, you'll begin it with just cherishing the wins that you've already accomplished by just turning your direction and focus to proper nutrition.
Yeah, and I think it's not walking around in penance all the time and thinking about what you can't have. When you go, oh, I'm feeling better, my mood's better, my back doesn't hurt anymore. Those kind of things, counting your blessings, gratitude, those kind of things are so critical in life. And for the record, Tro raised the faith issue, not me. So if you want to send hate mail, send it to Tro this time. But it's super important, and that helps us.
Do we get hate mail about that? Do we get hate mail about that?
No, remember I did. That's why I had to
you?
start another podcast. People go, just talk about keto, just talk about diet. Well, there's a lot of other stuff like sleep and stress and not being a jerk and being nice to people and all there's a lot more to this. Going on cruises with the low carb people, all those kind of things. But that's an important part for a lot of people. And if we overlook that, we're doing people a disservice, right? If faith is important to you, but you can't let your diet be your faith, right? At some point you have to say, okay, other people are different denominations. Cool. Do we believe generally the same thing? Yes. The important things we agree on. So if you want to add broccoli in, I'm not going to say you're a sinner and a terrible person, right? Yeah. And if it's working for you, don't evangelize someone else. If it's working, if they're happy and they're healthy and their life's good, okay, do what works for you. You may be very fortunate and be able to get away with more than I can. I just can't. So, there's all those things, to stop judging each other, like whatever they like. If you want to get criticized, I have never done that, but they'll go, well, I've been criticized, but I've never posted what I'm eating for lunch, because everyone will go, what kind of plate is that? Oh my gosh, is that a vegetable in the background? Like those kind of things, like everyone gets all worked up.
We were growing an indoor garden. I got Rachel an indoor garden for Christmas a couple of years ago, and we actually got, we showed it on a video, and we actually got a message from someone going, I am disgusted that you were eating that much green. I'm like, now it grows 30 plants. If you've ever seen like the Aero Gardens and stuff like that, it grows 30 plants. Like, we've got basil. Like, if we really let it go, we can get enough lettuce off of that for each of us to have maybe 2 salads in the week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were disgusted that we were eating lettuce.
A lot of people are disgusted by the quantity of food that I can eat also. I think I could take Dr. Tro seriously. Like we got to have like a eat off.
Okay, the Alaska,
Carb
and
Cruise.
I'm documenting it this time because I
It's-
wanted to last time, but then people said you didn't eat that much. He's like, I did, and I lost weight when I was there.
It's
They were getting so mad.
crazy.
Remember that, Trevor? The guy was getting mad at you. I'm like, I'm a witness. I saw the whole thing, and my wife's a witness, and all the people at our table witnessed it.
It's amazing how much I can definitely out eat Joe by a landslide. It's so funny. Usually, like we've been on at different conferences, like with Coach Bronson Dan, and he'll sit next to me, and he's cutting the fat off of his plate and then just scooting it to one side of his plate, and I just take the fat and eat it. So I love eating. It truly was an excruciating experience over all of those years of yo-yo dieting. Where they were saying, hey, here's a healthy choice. Here's a lean cuisine. This is what a woman is supposed to be eating. They don't know women. Like, I'm sorry, but not all women are created equally. And I'm thankful for that. So I'm pretty proud of the fact that I have a healthy appetite and I am authentic to it instead of messing around with your true hunger and satiation cues, ignoring your true needs. I'm thankful to take those hits, when we were like, you're a terrible glutton, Rachel, like, ew, that's so much food.
Yeah, and you're healthy and fit and mentally healthy, and you're going through all these things, and so it's amazing how people will pass judgment. And Jordan and I talk about a lot. We've had so many people on the podcast, they'll lose 150 pounds, and then all of a sudden people are worried about what they're eating. But when they weighed 400 pounds, no one said a word.
I say it all the time. So before keto, like again, we were couponers. We were trying to figure out how do we survive on very little money with 3 children. I would go to the store like the day after Halloween with coupons and buy like 50 packs of Oreos because you're getting them for like 50 cents. Nobody
blinked.
said a word. Nobody said a word when we would go on the day after Halloween and load up on all of the snacks and stuff that are discounted so we can give that to our kids for the next year. I mean, you would come to our house 10 months later and all of our paper plates were Halloween because that's how we survived. Nobody said a word when we bought the junk food. But I'll never forget when I went to Publix and I bought 5 packs of bacon and 6 dozen eggs, and someone looked in my cart and said, "You're going to have a heart attack." You didn't say anything when it was loaded with all the garbage.
Yeah,
That's amazing. Because it's normal. Because that's what they expect to see when they say, "Wait, where's all the packaged stuff in your meals?" That's crazy.
Well, this is what I meant by saying we're up against a nutritional and medical convention like we've never seen, and this is it. The minute you eat a little bit of meat and eggs, people are, or a bit of fat off of Coach Bronson's plate, people are asking questions. But if you eat a ton of Halloween Reese's Pieces candies, that's completely normal, and you should just do that in moderation. This is the problem we're up against a lot, and it's we need help. We need people like you doing what you're doing, Brian to do what he's doing, and myself, and we just need to keep going and work together in ways, putting together, elevating the cruise as much as we can, and supporting the Society of Metabolic Health Practitioners and supporting each other so that because the reality is Nabisco is going to make money, Coca-Cola and Kellogg's are going to make money, and the big hospital systems are going to make tons of money. They don't need the help, but people who are doing what I would say is truly the most important work, we all are going to need help. And so I appreciate you guys coming on, and I appreciate everything you guys are doing, and thank you for being who you are and being so inspirational, and keep doing what you're doing, and just
and the fact they've been in the RV all this time together and they're both alive. It's amazing.
Yeah.
my one request would be just if you see somebody DMing you, maybe just respond, maybe just
We'll work better on that.
Absolutely. Now you're gonna be like, I'm gonna need a restraining order from that Rachel chick because she's messaging me all the time.
So how do people track you two down if they want to start following you, learning, educating? Where's the best places to find you?
So the best place to find us is on YouTube. We do have a website, twocrazyketos.com. But you're going to find us on our YouTube channel for Two Crazy Ketos, spelled with K's. We upload at least 5 videos a week. We live stream every Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern time, every Thursday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time, and then we upload videos throughout the week. In addition, we have a RV channel. Because what happened is we realized that we had all of this energy after losing all of this weight, and we don't want to waste it. That's why our motto for our channels is live life beyond the couch. As you get healthy, get off the couch. Don't get healthy and stay on the couch. Go do something. We live in an amazing country. There's so many things that you can do here. So we started a YouTube channel to show people these are some things you can do. You don't even have to own an RV, but go kayaking, go walk through the park, go mountain biking, different things like that. So that one is called Two Crazy Campers.
And then soon we're going to be launching a 3rd channel, which is going to be focused on homesteading. So
And that's going to be called, that is the Double K Farm YouTube channel. We should be launching that in the next couple of weeks. And it's going to feature our renovating our new home, as well as homesteading, raising sheep, chickens, things like that.
So you Two Crazy Campers, is it the camper spelled with a K too?
Yes.
What do you have against C's?
they didn't spell keto with a C. Otherwise it'd be C's.
All right, then it would have worked. You had to have the keto in there. Awesome.
Yeah.
Tro, any other words of wisdom for us, man?
Thank you so much for
Great
coming.
discussion. Thank you both so much for coming on. It's always great to see you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
If you enjoy the show, please consider supporting us on Patreon by going to lowcarbmd.com.